Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Porfirio Coronado, and I'm here with Dallas Area Habitat. And today we are having a very important conversation. This is a topic that I have been wanting to cover for the longest, and that's educating our youth in financial education. And today here I have Miss Unisha Wells with Fort Oak Cliff, which is a partner with us, and she is a specialist in educating kids in this type of topics and other topics involving youth. So, Ms. Janisha, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today in this financial literacy week that we have going on.
Hello, Porfirio. Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to the topics we cover today. I'm here on behalf of Fort Oak Cliff, an amazing organization whose mission is to end systemic oppression. And the way we plan to end systemic oppression is through education, because we believe that education will increase your social mobility and your social capital. And so, financial literacy courses like this will definitely increase your social mobility and your social capital.
So, there was no better way for us to find a better partner than a Fort Oak Cliff on this type of education. All right. So, in today's topic, we're going to be discussing about how to have a financial conversation, or why is it important to have a financial conversation with your kids. Ms. Nisha and I are going to go through various questions, and if you have any questions, please feel free to send them on the chat, and we will ask that. Ms. Nisha, let's go ahead and get started and discuss why is it important for families to have a two-way conversation about around financing.
It's absolutely necessary for families to have a two-way conversation around it, because as a family you're probably discussing most everything that's happening in the household, right? So finances are a big part of what keep families sane and keep them at peace. So having those conversations with the children kind of engulf them and taking part in your reaching your family's financial goals.
That's true. I mean, and then also kids are watching what you are doing, correct? As a parent, right? So they, whatever you do, they are mimicking what you do. So if you are doing something wrong with your financing, ultimately they're going to start doing that. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I think that a lot of our early financial habits, of course, we learned from the modeling that we saw within our household or within our families, right? So, totally. As early as even my 16-year-old age, I was introduced to my grandmother, like, you need a bank account, you must have one. And these are things like that. So, definitely, you want to get those kids engaged in those conversations. The sooner the better.
The sooner the better. Now, you said the sooner the better. What age do you think is appropriate for children to have that conversation with their parents, or parents to have that conversation with children around that?
I don't think that there is a limit to the age, right? I think that as soon as kids kind of get an understanding of what money is and what the dollar bill means to them as far as value, then you should start to have those financial conversations, because oftentimes as a family we might have a goal and the children don't realize what kinds of roles they play in reaching those goals. I tell my nephews all the time, they constantly ask me for money for video games, but they also look forward to taking them family vacation. And so the conversations that I have with them are centered around, hey, if our goal is the family vacation, how many video games can we buy now and still be able to afford this vacation, and also have fun while we're on the vacation? So those are, I mean, like, that conversation I had as early as 7 years old, and they were kind of like, hey, wait, I don't need this Roblox this time because I want something when we go on vacation. So there's no age limit. I would say the sooner they understand the value and the
Right.
exchange, the better.
Yeah, so I was reading this article earlier, and it was saying that the sooner that the better. But what they're right now, what they're recommending is ages, well, second grade and third grade, when they're better starting to comprehend, like, the aspect of money, because at that grade level, that's when teachers are basically teaching them how to count, like what's a dollar bill, what's a quarter, and all that. So if they take those skills that they're learning in school and applying at home, and like Miss Janisha was mentioning, um, you know, I think it's better for them to be involved. Like you said, like if they're thinking about taking a vacation with the family and then also purchasing some video games, what better way for them to have that conversation with you now then? Because otherwise they're not going to be able to understand. I was like, if I was to get this video game right now, I might not be able to go to this vacation, right?
Absolutely. And it's just kind of like that delayed gratification that you want to also teach them, maybe working for things. Again, like you said, second, third grade is when they start to learn, numbers and money and things like that. So, yes, definitely. They can apply those skills that they're learning at school, at home.
So, why do you think that parents avoid having this conversation with their kids?
To be completely honest, I think parents avoid having these conversations and other conversations because they don't feel comfortable having them. I think that they may not feel knowledgeable of. I think, from my experience in working with children, math is always the subject that intimidates children. And in turn, when I met parents, I started to realize some of their concerns with being able to do math is pushed over into the child. So, like, I think that a lot of times they just don't want to have those conversations for fear of, am I saying it right? Am I telling them the right thing, or is the message clear?
That's exactly right. I think that's ultimately what their anxiety, right? The anxiety of them not bringing the right knowledge that they want to put on their kids. They don't want to say the wrong stuff to their kids. But I think ultimately, they and when I say they, I mean the parents. Once they are able to get some assistance, there's out there different platforms. This morning, if you joined us this morning, we talked about PocketWise Prep, which is a financial education for kids, K through 12 students, that is open to the public. So if you don't feel comfortable in passing that information over to your kids, maybe look at different platforms out there that can assist you with that. Um, so any other takes on that, Miss Unisha?
If you would seek out like a lot of the local like centers, for one, most schools, that's the age when they start to teach financial literacy, right? But within banks and your local community centers, there are a lot of programs that promote that financial literacy, and they can give you the tools you need to have a comfortable conversations about that. Sometimes you can just, rather than having it yourself, maybe take the kid to a place like a local bank and expose them to it. You'd be surprised at the programs that they offer specifically regarding school age children and financial literacy.
Another reason that I think that parents don't have that conversation with their children, it's because if you were not taught that by your parent, if they didn't have that conversation with you, a lot of times parents have that conversation about, I'm just going to put it out there, about sex, correct? But why
Right.
not have the conversation about, also money,
Everything. Right.
right? So I think that's because a lot of the parents didn't have that conversation with, or their parents didn't have the conversation with the parent now. I think it's time for us to break that barrier, right? Have that
Make it a
conversation.
tradition. Absolutely. I think a lot of things that we pass on in our family are traditions and things that are cultural, but we have not made financial stability and those things be a part of tradition and be a part of our culture. So we just have to really do the extra work as a community and as a family to make sure that you pass on those traditions as well, as far as just generational wealth and things like that, and how to just maintain that as a family.
Now that you're speaking about cultural stuff, that just reminds me when I was a kid. It's a couple of years ago, and you know, my I used to work with my dad. My dad he's self-employed, and we would always wake up early in the morning and go to work. Now, a lot of times people will consider that, well, that's child labor because you have a child over here working. But that's I think in the minority culture, especially the Hispanic culture, you will see that a lot of the kids going out to work with their parents, and that's because they're teaching them how they're earning the money, right? And because if otherwise, if they are just at home, they're just thinking that, oh, money is growing out of the trees, right?
Right.
Uh,
Absolutely. I think that it's very important that you said culturally, because we always, my family had was self-employed as well and had a family business. And it was very important for us at an early age to learn and understand what the family business was and the inner workings of the family business. So no, not at all did we think it was child labor. It was our absolute duty as a member of this family to
Correct.
learn how we have been able to, continue to live, as a family for generations. So yes, it's very important that we pass on those cultures as well.
Exactly. I think that teaches children, real life expectations, right? Like most of us are, you're gonna have to wake up early in the morning to go get that bread or get that money, right? You just can't stay at home and expect that money is gonna come to you. You're gonna have to go earn it. Um, and then also teaches them that, oh, maybe the way I'm earning the money, maybe I should not be so frivolous in spending it, right? Because I was out there sweating. Well, if you know me personally, I was acting like I was a boss though. But traditionally, you will be out there sweating, earning that money, right? So I think having that real life experiences with children on how to earn it and what to expect after it.
Yes, and to your point, the question we asked, how soon you should start, I can just think back to times when I was riding with my nieces and nephews, and they were like 4 or 5, and they were asking for things. I'm like, oh no, I don't have money for that. And they were like, just use your card. And in their mind, they had no connection to the money being on the card, how the money's earned, where the money's come from. They just know that whatever I paid for things, I either paid with tangible cash or I swiped the card. So at that moment, it was like, oh, you don't have money? Just use your card, rather than thinking, no, you really don't have money. So again, just teaching them, like you said, by going out and working with the family. Now you have a value add because you have your own money. Now you're spending your own money. They start having those conversations about, how to spend this money, how to save this money, how to use this money. Because it doesn't just come, just swipe a card. It's not always just on the card.
Right. So that's completely true. I have no children of my own, but I do have three nieces now, and that's completely true. My oldest niece, she was so excited that her mom has a credit card now, because she gets to go with her and start shopping. But she doesn't. I guess she doesn't still realize, what or took place to get that credit card or put money to that credit card. Her working and all that. So I think it's like an overall knowledge on how money works, essentially. So go ahead.
No, absolutely. I was in agreement with you.
Okay, and I was gonna say, so let's go ahead and discuss about what are some way, and I guess we are kind of discussed that already, but what are some techniques that parents can start having with children about, or conversations with children about this money? Like, we discussed there's platforms out there, but what are other ways that they can start having this conversation?
I would say not only through those platforms, but just simple conversations. If you like a budgeting conversation, before I've even had kids that visited me to the store and say, okay, we're only spending $20 today. So the things that I purchased need to only cost $20. And I had the kid there with my little phone calculator and they were adding up. And I'm like, let me know when we get close. That's simple. That's a not intimidating conversation about budgeting. We're in the grocery store, you're calculating what we're going to spend. The kid doesn't know you totally created this imaginary budget, or maybe it's not imaginary, but at any rate, they are understanding budgeting. I would totally say any type of way that you can just introduce saving. If the kid has an allowance, or something like that, those are before you get, because when you get to the platform is going to take off and it's going to give you all these amazing ways, but just ways to get these conversations generated with young children, allowances, savings, allowing them to exchange money if they are at the age where they can in a store, just different things like that, and get the conversation started. And then you can come to organizations like Fort Oak Cliff, Dallas Area Habitat, and get and Pocket Wise and platforms that actually explicitly detail how you should start that.
You mentioned allowances, and that just I just got thought about, like, whenever you give a child an allowance, most of the times it's because they did either academically good or they did some chores, right? So put that allowance towards something tangible, right? Like something that they did. Don't just give an allowance just because they were there or they're just your kids, right? And that you feel compelled to give an allowance, right? Make that allowance to where it's something that they achieve, so that they know that they have earned it and they know that how to spend that, right? So if you give a child an allowance, they are going to have that money and be able to start either saving or budgeting with that, right? So should I save this allowance or should I budget to spend on this items that I want, right? For example, maybe they want some shoes, right? So if they go out and start wanting some shoes, you know I'm just gonna put it out there. Nikes might be worth $150, right? But if you something less than Nike, you might get two pairs, right, instead of one. So it's kind of like balancing that. So and then also, whenever you're having these conversations as parents, you want to involve them in your overall goals. What do you think about that? Like if family goals.
Absolutely. I think that generally, as families, you may need to set goals, like in general, whether they be financial, whether they be social, emotional goals. You should just set goals, and the babies are a part of the family. So you have to include them. To the end that you said about, we were talking about allowances. Um, I know that we might not have the family that has the financial security to maybe give a weekly allowances, but monetary birthday gifts, Christmas gifts like that can start to spark those conversations about money and having money. And then, as a family, I know at some point the children like are totally knowledgeable. They know that the food and things like that is paid for. So like you totally want to have conversations about, how we acquire the food. Give them an opportunity to maybe visit not necessarily a food pantry because you need it, but to see this food distribution or something like that, and to see people that acquire food in those kind of ways to kind of get the balance and understand these people are probably here because they don't have the freedom to go in and shop at will like we do, and just kind of have those conversations. And those are so many teachable moments wrapped up in one, because you're teaching them about service, you're teaching them about how other people live, but you're also teaching them about our family goals. And my goal is to have you guys eat healthy meals daily as a family. And the way I do that is I go and I provide and I shop. I mean, and it just kind of open up the doors for so many conversations. But I would totally say it is absolutely important to include the little ones in the family goals, because you're the one that's going to light the torch, but they're the one that's going to continue to carry it and light the way based on their knowledge of how to do that. Right? Because our goal is for them to be sustainable adults. So how you teach them to manage the finances now determine whether you get kind of a sustainable adult, or they say a little longer than you had expected.
That's completely right. You hit the nail right in the head, because you said like your overall goal is for them to be sustainable young adults or adults later on. Because if you are like in a right now, if you're looking at your finances and you're looking at like, I wish that my mom had this conversation with me when I was younger. That way I didn't make this mistake that I made, right? So it's important to talk to them about it. And now I'm talking about mistakes, about like most of the kids, whenever they graduate high school, they are going to be receiving credit card offers left and
Mhm.
right, right?
Absolutely.
So what do you do with that? Like whenever you get a credit card offered, you talk to your children about it, right? It's like, okay, this is a credit card, and talk to them about credit. What does it involve? You're muted, Miss Unisha.
It's amazing that you brought that up. Thank you, because my immediate thought is me walking onto my college campus in 1997, and all these tables are set up, and they were saying, you can get a credit card. And in my brain, I have arrived. I can get a credit card. Not thinking about a month later, hey, wait, you have no income as a student and they want you to pay for this credit card. So now I had to be really creative and figure out I need to find a way to generate revenue or income so that I can pay this credit card. And then when I pay this credit card, am I paying the minimum payment or am I trying to clear the balance? So I got a crash course right quick on, yeah, it's available for you, but there is work there that you have to do in order to maintain that. And so I quickly learned about credit. That's one thing that I do think I was sheltered on. I was taught the basis of earning and the saving, but credit
Okay.
cards. We didn't tap into that area. And I realized that we didn't tap into that area because my grandmother didn't use them. That's why she didn't talk about them. So maybe not speaking about them was saying, don't get them. I didn't get that part. So definitely, they're going the older you get, a lot of younger adults, they're going to offer you credit cards because you're at that age. But there is still a level of responsibility that you have when you are accepting those. And all of that is a part of your financial literacy and how you feel about that.
You mentioned that your grandma didn't teach you about it. And that's one, and because prior, society, prior societies, and all that, we were they didn't use credit as much as we use credit now, right?
Absolutely.
So if we now live in a society where most of the things that we're buying or earning is on credit, it's important for us to start having that conversation with kids at a young age and tell them, okay, this is a credit card, and this is the purpose of a credit card. You make your minimum payment on time, and if you can't afford to purchase something, then don't get
And
it, right?
right.
So so we need to have those conversations now, because we now live in a society where credit is such a big part about it. um, any other takes on that, Miss Unisha?
I don't. I think that like you couldn't have said it better. I just think it's very important for us not to leave out that piece of credit. Like in talking about um spending and in talking about saving, we must also include credit and what credit looks like. Of course with the older age students, but what it looks like, what it looks like to maintain credit, how do you establish credit, how do we sometimes lose credit? All of that is important because you're right. Traditionally, my family did not operate a lot using credit. They were, buyers. I mean, they were workers, savers, eventual spenders. But we are in an age now to where credit opens up other opportunities. Credit is a great thing. So we do need to have those conversations about that sooner as well, especially before we enter the college campus. Because when we get to the college campus, most of the time we're all turning 17 and 18, and that's when they're going to teach us about it, whether we know or not.
And what better way for them to learn it from someone of their own, like their family member or parents? Someone asked on their chat about a question. It says, are there any ways to teach kids or adults delayed gratification and rewards?
Why is it teach kids or adults? I think totally for kids, like chore charts, things like that, in the home. Like even as far as like a toddler, you have a chore chart. I think by kinder they have certain things that a kid should be doing developmentally at their age. So let's say by kinder they should totally be spreading up the bed every morning, not making the bed, but at least able to pull the covers back. And I had a chore chart that connected to, oh, you get a star, okay, for however many stars you earn that equates to $1 or that equates to a treat. So it's easier to do with children. Adults, not so much. But
So
yes, there are ways, and we just have to be more creative about it.
and like yes, we have to be more creative, and that's just because as adults, we are on the go every day, right? So yes, I completely agree with you, your short charts that we to be set available. Um, let's see. Any other takes on why is it important to have this conversations with the children?
I just think that we have to start thinking about everything from a generational aspect, and just like you would want your kid to have knowledge of math or knowledge of literature, I think that we have to understand that finances is an area that we need to tap into and get kids knowledge about. And there is a language, just like there's a language that you use in math, and there's a language that you use with every other subject and get them to understanding that language sooner. And then, just like everything else, they'll take it and they'll blossom and they'll inquire and ask more questions, or that it just gives you an opportunity to teach them things. So yeah, we got to start having those conversations as tradition, just like everything else, especially with home ownerships. I remember as a teacher many, many years ago, I taught, and just kids having the conversation about why some of them maybe lived in apartments and some of them maybe lived in the house, and it was third graders, and it just blew up into a huge conversation. And I realized now that was kind of like a financial literacy conversation, you know?
It was, yes. So yes, in the chat, we did put some resources in there about what can we do as adults. Habitat for Humanity, we focus on, or Dallas Area Habitat for Humanity, we focus on educating the parent as they go through the homeownership process. A lot of times, we always, or the parent always says like, yes, I am able to do this, but I have little ones that I have to consider as well, as far as what they want and what they need. And as parents, we always want to feel gratified by giving everything to our young ones, right? Because if I didn't have it when I was younger, I want to provide it to my children. So what better way for us to have that gratification than providing them with a tool that they will be successful in the long run.
I agree.
Any other questions from the attendees? So like I mentioned to you today, this is a conversation about having a two-way conversation between finances between parents and children. This is a week series of financial literacy. And this morning we had a topic on PocketWise Prep, which is a financial literacy program that is for children at different campuses in the Dallas ISD. If you were not able to attend that session, it was recorded. It will be provided on our website. And later today, we're going to have a read along with another nonprofit, Readers to Leaders, about the importance of reading, and then how to involve kids in that reading and the way that they're learning on this financial process. Thank you so much, Ms. Janisha with Fort Oak Cliff, for having this conversation with me of why it's important for us to have these conversations with young ones.
Thank you for the invitation. Look forward to talking to you guys again.
If there's no other questions, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope to see you today at 4:30 with Read Along. Bring your kids along, and there's going to be a raffle, and we're going to be reading a book and do some great stuff. Thank you so much for joining.